on, let's do the love field concession. I think we got some people right there waiting.
So it sounds like.
I believe this is the second go-round, Mr. Dubert. And I think it was a question we asked, and I think we can go straight to the meat of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We want to bring back the information that was asked for last committee. So you want to jump ahead to page 4. Talk about, we went and looked at Airport Council International North America, asked them for their most recent survey on what other airports are doing. Basically, 49% are street plus a percentage, and 43% are no more than street plus, or street price. We, Dallas Love Field, when we issued the RFP, of course, we said street pricing. The other 8% are other. That represents airports that don't mandate one way or another. We, for the edification of the committee, we gave you slide 5, just a breakdown, just to show that we do distribute common area maintenance on a percentage basis with a percentage cap, just to give you some sense what the other airports in Texas, and then the bottom airport is St. Louis, which is probably on an employment basis the closest to what we have. All of those airports that we did survey in Texas were street plus some percentage, as well as St. Louis was as well. So we just wanted to give you that comparison. We went back and looked on pages 6 and 7. We pulled the pro formas that were in the proposals from all of the concessionaires. Of course, we're just 6 months into the fiscal year, but we wanted to give some sense of if we sort of projected that out based on the sales thus far. And as you can see, of all the food and beverage concessions, it's a mixed bag. We have probably more under their pro forma projections than are above, but you can see that there are clearly some concessions that are exceeding sales projections and some that are not. Page 8, we did ask for financials to demonstrate profitability. It was one of the requests of the committee. Right now, we only require sales numbers, and those are the numbers that we audit and are required as part of the contract. We made that request for profit and loss statements and or tax returns. Of the 7 food and beverage concessionaires we have thus far, 2 declined to provide the information, said they weren't seeking a price adjustment. And they were, the other, Gina Puente, also included it wasn't a require of the contract and they did not feel comfortable. 1 gave us some information but requested more time. 2 have not yet responded with the information, the Grove and Pop 4. Grove operates Moe's and Manchu Walk, and Pop 4 operates Crew Wine Bar and Brugger's Bagels, which just opened this January. Of the 2 concessionaires that did submit financial statements, the numbers on the next slide there, page 9, the numbers confirm that early on in the program, now I'd like to remind the committee that when we did the contracts for this, none of the concessionaires were required to pay a minimum annual guarantee. They were only paying percentage rent until the primary term of the contract began. That primary term did not begin until November of last year, so none of the concessionaires were required for a minimum annual guarantee. They were just paying the percentage rent. Most of them, when we opened the 12 gates, we opened the majority of our concessions in April of 2013. Page 9, if you could jump ahead. Of those 2, early on, the concessionaires did not generate a profit. Certainly a big part of that is the amortization cost of the capital investment that they've all made. The terms are 7-year terms that begun in November of last year. And then looking at the first full quarter, calendar 15, 1 of the 2 concessionaires did report overall positive net income, 1 reported overall negative net income. And then looking at April, just the month of April, where we're getting up to the employment levels that we feel are we're going to be consistently at. Of course, April, Southwest Airlines added 8 additional destinations. and Virgin began their 5 daily flights to Austin. 3 units had positive net income, and only 1 unit was left with negative net income. And then page 10, just next step, our recommendation was to maintain current pricing methodology. It was a contract term, just so the committee understands that we did issue a number of addendums. We went back and looked at the communications, not only in the RFP, but in the addendums, where we readjusted or reaffirmed street pricing was a requirement of the contract. And most notably, the addendum 8, which was issued July 11th, 2011, we were more specific about the flexibility with which we allowed the concessionaires to identify comparable street locations so that they would be able to adjust their pricing to match market forces. So that's our update to the committee. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, question number 1. Before we start this venture at Love Field, before we did the construction there, all the work we done, did we have street prices then before the project started?
The contract, the previous concessionaire contract, of course, we had 2 concessions. It was street plus 10%.
Street plus 10, right?
Correct.
Street plus
Yes, sir.
10. Do DFW have street plus 10?
Street plus 10, yes, sir.
What about Houston, Texas?
We have it in the matrix. I believe they are street plus 10. Yes.
So how many cities have changed around that went from street prices to street plus 10 in the last year?
I do not know the answer to that, sir.
Quite a few. You know, I know Houston just changed, recently.
Yeah, Houston did change
What
recently.
about Phoenix?
I do not know, sir.
I think they changed also. So I think we should know what the market is going on around, why are they changing? What is the square footage sale at Love Field?
Square footage sales.
You're talking about overall for,
Yeah, the square foot. I mean, how much is
Gross
$1,000? It's $900 per square foot a sale or what? Sale per square foot?
it's over 1,000 for,
What is the number?
for food and beverage.
Yeah.
It's over 1,000.
What, 1,000 what?
I'll tell you. I have $1,266.83.
Okay, what is the average sale if you compare that with other airports?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't I have that? I mean, I'm trying to do some comparison. I thought we asked that.
We can get that information, sir. We don't have it with us right now.
What is the
Would you-
sale per person who come in? What is the average sale per person?
Currently, right now, $6.70 was the last reporting month in April.
And that's per emplaned passenger, not the number of people that bought, but adjusted over all of our employments.
What about retail? Same question.
Retail's about $2.50 per emplaned passenger.
What about sale per square foot?
Do you have a read?
996.
I wonder, what is the average in the universe?
We'll have to research that. We don't know. The Airport Council International has done a number of surveys. We could go find out what their average for all airports. We could do comparison airports. We could do all airports. It's the will of the committee.
My question is that most of the airport is street plus 10, and we at street, and they're changing. Why are we not changing?
I believe Houston and Phoenix did it as part of the RFP process. So as the RFPs were issued, the new contract terms were in the RFP.
But policy can change anything. We policy makers. This could be a policy decision. I don't think this.
Yes, sir.
If we need to go to executive session, we can go there and to clarify some stuff. If anybody got a legal question we want to ask at this point. Anyone?
I've got questions, not for executive session.
Okay. With that, Con, have you spoke to the the concessionaire, the operator at Love Field, what is their feeling about street price plus 10? If they have any feeling about? Guys, look at, we got quite a big back there.
Some of the concessionaires would like and have requested us to change our contract requirement to from street pricing to street plus 10. Other concessionaires we have spoken with have said they understood the terms of the contract and they weren't seeking a price increase.
Who is the other? Who are the other contractors, the other operators?
Hudson Group as well as Gina Puente Enterprises.
Hudson Group, okay, okay. Hey, is anybody from Hudson here? Back there? Anybody from Hudson Group in the back? Okay, thank you, okay. Could you, who is all the back there from Love Field? Who are all the different operators? I just want to know the operators. Okay, could you just mention your name? Just, I just want to know who you represent. Okay.
Jess Alexander with Mickey's Barbecue Restaurant.
Okay,
Eric Ramey with TGI Concessions.
okay,
Alonzo with Airstar Concessions.
okay. Anyone else?
Kerry Black.
Okay,
Tony Filani with World Duty Free Group.
okay,
And Ronnie Harris with World Duty Free Group.
okay. Okay. Is anyone else committee want to say something? I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and move that we forward the Love Field concession issue to the full council on June 10th, 2015 meeting.
A motion, that's a motion?
Yeah, just move it forward for
Full
consideration to the full council June 10th. Yes,
Okay, you want,
full consideration to vote.
you want to speak, Scott? Okay, you want to speak? Go ahead.
Thank you for that briefing, Mark. I have a couple of questions. When you look at what we're trying to achieve at Love Field, and for that matter, in our entire aviation, where would you rate customer experience relative to all the other goals?
We certainly place it very highly. The customer experience is one of our top priorities.
And so would you consider cost of food, beverage part of the customer experience?
I think in the survey that Airport Council International does, it asks questions regarding the value that people perceive what they get food and beverage concessions at.
So when someone flies into, like for my example, when I flew into LAX earlier this year and paid $15 for a cheese sandwich, I found that to not be a very good customer experience. When someone pays a reasonable price, do they go hip hip hooray, I got a good price, or do we generally have more complaints about high prices?
Well, we haven't gotten any complaints regarding the pricing at.
Oh, we haven't at street pricing.
No, sir.
That's terrific. So these vendors that we have out there in their street situation, did they pay property tax either directly if they own the property or indirectly through their landlord? Would assume so.
We would assume so, yes, sir.
Do we collect any property tax on Love Field?
No, sir.
So do these vendors pay any property tax,
No, sir.
directly or indirectly?
No, sir.
Nice. It's nice to have that advantage. What is the average amount of time that a passenger spends in Love Field from even maybe once they get past security into the general area, do you think?
I don't know that we know that. We would assume it's roughly 90 minutes. We always encourage folks to get through screening 90 minutes before they
90
fly.
minutes, captive audience for 90 minutes. That's pretty interesting. Whereas a street person, I'm in a street restaurant, what do you think the drive-by time is of, let's say, a Whataburger? If I'm driving down Lemon Avenue and there's a Whataburger, what do you think my visual on that restaurant might be? 10 seconds? So 90 minutes of captive audience. Wow, that's quite a benefit to these vendors, I would think. Is it in our contracts or in our policy, is it the responsibility of the city of Dallas to guarantee profitability for any vendors at Love Field?
No, sir.
Because I noticed we, in our contracts, we pretty much focus on top-line revenues when we do percentage rent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But we don't focus on profitability. It's up to the vendor to make their enterprise profitable or not, right? And are these vendors subject to audit with regards to their top-line revenue?
To the sales, yes, sir.
Yeah, and how often do we audit?
Well, we get at least annually, and then we do spot checks on point of sale.
Okay, okay. You know, I've been flying a lot out of left field lately since the new things have been put in place, and I'm so thrilled with what's going on there. The customer experience is incredible. And as many of y'all know, I've been flying down to Austin pretty regular, and my regular schedule is take the 6 o'clock flight out, and then I just try to get back, and I'll get back anytime between noon and 9 at night. And I got to tell you, there are lines at these restaurants. It's 5:30 in the morning, lines. 9 at night, if the ones that are still open have lines. 6 in the evening, packed. So I'm not really clear on why a vendor can't be profitable in there. Do you think there are other vendors out there that maybe could be profitable with that kind of captive audience, no property tax, you know, all these things that we're providing there? Are there other vendors available or out there that would be interested? Did we have, for example, did we have some vendors when we did the RFP that did not make the cut?
Well, yes, sir. We had a number of vendors that proposed that were not selected.
Okay. So with regards to street pricing, I think it's a really competitive advantage, this is just my statement, a competitive advantage that Love Field has street pricing relative to the other airports, so that when customers, both Dallas people as well as out-of-town folks come to Love Field, they don't feel that they're getting gouged. And I would actually like us to pursue street pricing at DFW. How would we go about doing that?
That's purview of the DFW board.
DFW board. Okay, so I should meet with I'll meet with the board members on that issue. I would appreciate that. So I think you're doing a great job, and I appreciate your recommendations to maintain street pricing at Love Field, and I assume that's the recommendation that you're putting in your motion, Mr.
Street plus 10 is
Well, that's not what the recommendations for staff are.
No, he can make any regulation he
I
wants
know,
to.
okay, well, I just want to, okay, but I want to be clear on
Okay,
that.
Mark,
Thank you.
Lee asked a question, and I fly out of Love Field quite a bit going down to Austin, Texas. I want to ask you a question. TSA, what time do the employees go through the line to TSA if they got to open at Starbucks? I know the line be long. I know they still prepping to get there. What time they can get through?
TSA opened screening at 4:30 last week. However, we met with TSA. They will be opening. One of the complaints we got from the current concessions is not enough time to get there, get through screening for the employees.
Okay.
TSA will be opening one line just for employees
Okay,
15 minutes early.
But,
So we're working to solve the
I just
problem.
want to make sure that open at 4:30, trying to get to Starbucks to get prepped, whatever breakfast, you're going to have long lines because when they're in line, they ain't opened up to serve. They're not ready to serve. And I know we do have a problem with TSA because I check that in my own self. So have we changed that? Are we going to make sure?
We met with them. There'll be a 15-minute concession employee or employee only will open 15 minutes before
But
the
also-
main screening.
Also TSA, if I go apply for a job through one of these vendors, I'll make $9.50 an hour. It's going to take 21 days or maybe 30 days to clear that employee. Is that a fair question?
At a minimum, it would take about 2 weeks to do all the background checks to get the employee screened.
And if I'm making $9.50, most employees are not going to wait, for a month for a job because it's minimum wage and go somewhere else. And so you might have more turnover. Okay. We need to try to clear that up. Okay. Anyone else on the board first? Scott.
Thank you. Could you go back to one of those earlier slides? I was wondering why we chose Canada in there too for the comparisons.
Airport Council International North America covers, the survey just covered that, both the U.S. and Canadian airports.
So did it cover Mexico too as part of North America?
No, sir.
Okay. No, Mexico, just to clarify, is
We didn't
North
conduct,
America.
we didn't conduct the survey. It was just the one that was available.
Okay, well, just a North American survey. Just want to see that we cover all the North American countries, the 3 big ones for the survey. Thank you. A question on this would be, I know so many other of these airports have gone to street plus 10. There is a captive audience, but we do know if people aren't able to make a profit, then what they're going to do is hire less people, service will go down, and then Love Field would become a revolving door with various concessionaires going in and out. Since one of the obstacles I see here is that the rent is based on a percent, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we got, rent is based on a percent, your pricing is fixed on street, then the Love Field has some other unique expenses. One of them is the Sally, where do all the concessionaires, do they pay 3%, or what's the percentage they pay just to get the goods in?
We've capped, its actual expenses capped at 3% of gross sales, so it's, the common area maintenance is not only the Sallyport expense, but also the
Or just if someone could answer the question.
janitorial and stuff like that.
Is it 3%, yes or no? Is it 3%?
Just for the Sallyport? No, sir.
So the Sallyport and the other things are 3%?
Together, the
Maybe
cap
Mr.
is 3%.
Evans, could you assist Mr. Dubner? Ryan? Ryan, is it 3%?
3%. It's 3%
Thank you.
of gross sales, and that's for trash removal, that's for the Sallyport, and it's for food court cleaning.
Food court, thank you. So there's, so in this environment, there's a number of expenses that don't exist on the street. And so, but rent is floating around, rent is tied as a percentage. So what I'd like to hear from any of our concessionaires that want to come up, have you been able to make any profit in this? Because certainly we don't want people gouged, but we recognize if businesses can't make any profit, then service will decline, and then we'll get this revolving door. So any volunteers?
Thank you, Council. I appreciate it. My name is Anthony Alessi. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for HMS Hosts. Appreciate your time and energy around this issue today, as it is an important one to our customer and I think our partners out there. If I may, I'd like to go over some of the comments being generated here, as well as our profitability comment as we go through here.
I'm listening.
Okay. So regarding our profitability, as we've outlined, the project has just opened. I think in the slide it says that we currently are not profitable. Each concession contract was an individual contract. We had the opportunity to win 6 spaces out there. 1 contract package with 2 Starbucks, 1 with a Pachugo and a Madeleine, 1 Cool River, and 1 Chick-fil-A. Individual contracts, because that's how the RFP bid them, so we looked at them as individual businesses. I could have won 1 and then had to live here with Dallas Love Field with just 1 operation, so that's the way I encourage the city to look at them. Cool River doing very well. Center, icon, big open space, wide windows, very inviting environment. Cool River is doing much better than our expectations. La Madeleine and Pachugo, well below our expectations. These are in the heart of the traffic flow, down the wings, where all the consumers tend to congregate around their hold room areas, and we are struggling getting people in the door and generating enough profitability for those 2 locations. Whataburger, one of those phenomenal operations out there that I think will outperform every single operation here and maybe some of our sit-down restaurants. Whataburger is, we operate 3 of them out there in this concession world. They tend to do in the 6 days of business more than any other operator, including McDonald's. So they are very good operation. We're happy with that. Our 2 Starbucks have actually been a little bit frustrating. One, as we mentioned, the security lines. I too fly out of this airport at 5:30 in the morning, 5 a.m. I'm usually here, and I'm watching 25 people get in line to my Starbucks as my team tries to get through security and come in and prep it. That means people are in my line at 5 a.m. and I'm getting through security and getting people there right around 5, then I have a half hour of prep time. We've used some red badges to get around the system to get managers in there to start early, but the bulk of our majority of our employees have to go through that line. So I do believe the new timing will help tremendously for all of us. One of the Starbucks is doing very well. The other one is not profitable, as our P&L statement showed. So what I encourage council is, while we are very ambitious on Love Field, we are very happy with the opportunity we've had here, We haven't had enough time to materialize, one, profitability in our short term. We have 7 years. We don't get any extra time on this, 7 years to make our money back. And we've already lost profitability in the first year and a half. That means I'm catching up the remaining 5.5 years going down the line on profitability. So at a minimum, while I am very optimistic about the airline industry, that's our business, and I'm very bullish about Dallas Love and the future that it has here, we are not there yet. You're already robbing Peter to pay Paul. We haven't even materialized that. So that's the answer to the profitability question.
Thank you. Any other concessionaires?
I'd like to clarify that Mr. Alessi was speaking about Chick-fil-A, not Whataburger. I own and operate the Whataburger Campese's in Cantina Laredo, and we are not profitable. We barely made money the first quarter. That money does not include interest expense. It doesn't include any debt service. It doesn't include any return of my capital. We have a great opportunity with this 90-minute dwell time, if that in fact is the truth, but we still do not have enough revenue to pay back our capital. We are only charging street. Taking it to street plus 10 will not decrease customer satisfaction. In fact, it will increase some customer satisfaction because it will enable me to continue the staffing levels that I currently have. It will enable me to add more staff. It will enable me to add technology which will help me get through those lines quicker. Thank you.
Just a couple comments. I think one of the issues with this moving forward when we do these RFPs has been in the past, the RFP process is too heavily weighted on rent. I think it should be much more weighted on customer satisfaction and experience, much like the DFW RFPs. If not, essentially everything goes to the highest bidder. It's so heavily weighted on rent, then the rents just escalate. Then people get tied into a percentage weight that's just way too high for the environment, given that it's got certain costs that aren't there on the street. And one of the big parts of having a business is if your business can't make money, then you raise your prices. Here, that's not an option. The only option is then for the business to decrease its service to a point where service can't be decreased, and then the business goes out of business. But there's all these fixed costs on the build out and all the other expenses that go with running a restaurant. And so it can start a vicious cycle. So with respect to the RFP process, looking forward, I'd be more in favor of a process like DFW than the one we had last time at Love Field. With that, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion if there's not one on the table. I move to modify the first sentence of the street pricing section of each of the Dallas Love Field retail concessions contracts and the Dallas Love Field food and beverage concessions contracts to provide that a concessionaire may not charge prices for any products that exceed the street price plus 10 thereof, to be effective July 1st, 2015, after council approval.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to withdraw my motion in deference to his motion.
July 1st. July 1st.
Any other question? No, you already spoke. Let them speak. We'll go back to you.
Yeah, and I'm not going to hold up the vote, but I do want to say that I've heard some things, and Councilman Griggs said something, and you said something, and then I heard Mr. Andy, I believe that's his name, Chick-fil-A, say a couple of things about the long lines. I don't fly, and y'all know that, but I flew the other day, and I went out to Love Field, and I was early in the morning, and it was kind of hectic going through the security. I thought I had that TSA bypass the thing, but then my shoes kept going off for some reason. But at any rate, we do, Mark, I think, need to address getting the lines through. I think that is something that is probably a misformal, because if they can't get in there to set up, then the people that's all coming all at the same time, and the folks go in to get some hot coffee and they just turn on the coffee pot, then of course there's going to be a long line. So I do agree with that. From what I'm hearing as related to the discussion that we had in relations to the RFPs that we put out, indeed, if it should be best performance instead of the rent, because you get into the political meandering of and bidding as to who's going to have it. The best chicken in town is Rudy's, but Rudy's, being a small business, will never, ever probably have a fair opportunity to get into the airport if it's down to who and what corporation makes the highest bid. But if they got what the customers like and the people want it, then they should have that fair opportunity. So I do agree with what you said, Councilman Griggs, as relate to the best product out there should be what gets into the airport. So I just want to make those comments, and you all can go ahead and get the vote going.
Mr. Griggs, you want to?
Just a clarification on the motion. The attorneys have told me we can't tie it to specific date certain based on the contracts having to come back to the, so I'd like to say just as soon as reasonably possible on the date.
You accept that? Okay, Mr. Kingsley.
I'm Klein.
Kleiman.
Just a couple of comments with regards to Mr. Griggs' comments. With regards to rentals rates and percentage rent, having over 10 years' experience in national chain retailing myself, that is very typical of mall-type rent, where you pay a percentage of sales. So I think we're aligning with these same vendors we typically find in any other environment, mall or street for that matter. The other thing with regards to having some price control, the reason that this is put in place is because what you have here is a regulated oligopoly. It has limited competition. And for the advantage of having the City of Dallas limit competition, they agreed contractually to go with street pricing. Now, maybe in your practice, contracts don't mean anything, but the City of Dallas has a contract with these vendors. And they can renegotiate the contract when their contracts come up for expiration. I don't think it's appropriate at this point in time, especially this early into the process, for them to come talking about profitability. Because it's not our requirement to provide profitability. It's to them to operate profitably. I find, honestly, ironically, the saying that Starbucks is struggling there because I can't even get a frickin' cup of coffee in that place. I have to go somewhere else because I won't wait 30 minutes in line to get a cup of coffee there. I also want to talk a little bit about how appalled I am when we talked about the wages being paid in here. I didn't realize, and Adam, I know wages are a very important component to you, so you might want to hear this. I didn't realize till one of the vendors mentioned here that the wages are less than $10 an hour there. Appalled. I mean, they're not even paying a living wage, and they're whining about their own personal profitability. So I would offer a amendment to your proposal, Mr. Griggs, and that would be that in order to go to Street Plus 10, they must pay a living wage. Just simple. As calculated by living wage at MIT, which is publicly published on a regular basis. I think a living wage is important. We've talked about that a lot. And so if I can get a second on that, I think I would be comfortable looking at a cost plus 10 with the guarantee of paying living wage. So I put that forward as a friendly amendment.
Motion died. You did accept?
Wait. Did I put the, so Mr. King?
He can't make an answer. He didn't respond.
Okay, so just for clarity, then Mr. Griggs is against a living wage at Love Field.
He didn't respond.
Okay, Mr. Griggs is against a living wage at Love Field. That's all I asked for.
Okay. We had a motion on the table. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Motion go forward. We're going to move your Dow Ford motion, Adam Madrano, to the 15th. We have on the 15th, right? On the 15th. That's already you, Alan, so let's do that. So now it's 10:49. The Economic Development Committee is called to an end. Bye.
Yeah, they're going to go back and do it now. Well, we're just doing the agenda items. We're just doing the agenda items. Modify all the contracts, all the legal.